Tank Tiger is a new innovative platform that delivers data on available oil storage tanks across the world, but mainly in America, available to buy or to lease. Stephen's expertise gives him a clear understanding of Cushing's importance to the industry and how current tank prices compare to the craziness of April 2020, the first month in the history where oil recorded a negative price. Hello, Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing well, Toby. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for joining me today. I thought this would be a good opportunity for you to talk to us a little bit about Tank Tiger and what actually you do.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the interview. The Tank Tiger is a hub and for the transaction of terminal leasing.
Yep.
So oil traders and terminal providers write contracts like apartments. You would lease an apartment, and the Tank Tiger facilitates that transaction via brokering and clearinghouse and marketplace activity.
Okay, and how does the overall tank market look with the current backwardation structure at the moment?
Right now, it's a tough market to be a terminal provider. The market is backwardated with the high prices and the curve not favoring the terminal providers like it was in 2020. Prices have definitely depressed probably in the past year, in Cushing in particular. Last year you could have seen some crazy numbers. Typically on average, Cushing's around 30 cents per barrel for a term contract. Yeah. I'd say right now with the backwardation pricing, it's around 10 to 20 cents per barrel, depending on the facility and the connectivity. And what I mean by cents per barrel, that's all US standard. And that's how the tank pricing is marketed.
And how does the tank prices compare to the craziness in April 2020?
Oh man, 2020 was crazy. So the demand for tanks was unlimited. People were throwing some astronomical numbers out there to tank providers, and it was a good day to have a tank to lease. Let me tell you that in 2020. Yeah, no, this year I'd say it's gone back to not normal, but it's flattened out. So there's still not that much inventory in the supply of tanks. So a lot of those contracts are still continuing from 2020. So the inventory of supply of available tanks isn't that high, where it has basically cratered prices, but the demand is not like it used to be, and it's mostly for operational purposes. There's no contango play, obviously, and the ARB plays don't seem to be there unless you're moving barrels from Canada, which is has maybe making a little bit of money. But overall, it's a weird one where supply of available tanks isn't high, but also demand isn't there, so it's kind of flat.
How does the Cushing tank market compare to somewhere like, I don't know, Houston or Midland?
So yeah, Cushing obviously is the WTI center for benchmark for pricing. So anybody that has a position in Cushing can sell in the future on the NYMEX screen, and so it will always have a play for that kind of market. And it's a little bit different than Houston and Midland in the sense that it provides outlets for the crude to different markets. I'm speaking operationally. So Cushing can provide inbound crudes from Canada, from Midland, from the Bakken, and from Powder Basin, Delaware Basin, DJ, and the outlets are mostly the Midwest refineries and the Gulf Coast Houston market, and then obviously people blend and move barrels around in Cushing. And it serves a purpose, definitely, if you're an oil trading house, and it's basically the benchmark for crude
from the
prices.
world, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So people definitely always want to be there and have a sense of that market, and
do you find that many terminals or tanks come available actually in Cushing, or is it literally like gold dust? And once they do come available, people pick them up really, really quickly?
For sale or for availability?
Just for availability to lease or.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's Cushing has over 90 million barrels. I mean, a lot of it is under long-term lease for refiners and producers. But typically it is a really liquid market, just because there's so many providers. There's at least 10 or so independent terminal providers that will lease out by third party to trading houses and refiners and producers. So tanks pop up pretty frequently in Cushing. It's a pretty liquid market in terms of for tank pricing and tank availability, and just the activity of the tank market.
How does the crude price, tank prices compare to other products like gasoline, for instance?
So crude differs. I mean, obviously, like the commodity, it differs in the structure of the pricing for tanks. So typically for crude, it varies by region. But for gasoline, let's say gasoline tank in Houston would go for 80 to 90 cents. Typically, a crude tank in Houston is around 70 to all the way down to 10 cents, depending on the market and the connectivity and kind of export and what have you. So it varies differently, and the structure of the tanks are different as well. Crude tanks typically have external floating roofs, and they're easier to maintain. But yeah, the pricing's changed, and it's changed from gasoline to distillate. You're typically around 70 to 50 cents to 20 cents, depending on the market as well. So yeah, it varies widely, and by product and by location. So it's a different market for each product. So crude in Cushing is different than gasoline in New York Harbor, which are both obviously NYMEX markets for each product. So it's fun and interesting, and it definitely keeps you on your toes if you're a terminal broker.
Every day with the oil market. And is Tank Tiger just for the American market, or are you open up to, say, for instance, the Asian market as well?
Our strength is really North America, South America, Caribbean. Yeah. We've dabbled in Europe and Asia, but we consider ourselves that market until expansion happens and we start rolling up in the Asian market and Europe, and then you'll see our name more predominantly.
And this is probably the last question from me, but thank you for your time, and thank you for taking your time to talk to me today. Is there any thoughts of where you see the tank market sort of going in the future?
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting. It seems like the headwinds are more heavily backwardated, so it's going to be tougher to lease that additional tank than it was, in 2020. And with the export markets shrinking, all those projects for midstream projects to export barrels in the U.S. I'm talking is shrinking. So the demand isn't there to charge a high rate for a tank that was an export tank that it was back in the day. So it should be interesting. But there will always be obviously a use for tanks operationally to move a barrel from one place to another. It just depends on the price you can get for that tank now, and I think it's a cycle like anything. we'll see heavy backwardation period, and then I think contango will come back. It's just the nature of how oil works and the natural cycles of it. So that's my expectations. And the Tank Tiger will be here for anybody that needs tanks. So we'll be here for when that contango cycle comes around too.
Perfect. Well, thank you for talking to me today, and we'll keep in close contact with one another as things move forward with our companies. But thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Toby. I really appreciate it.